We're going to start this section of the course by looking at definitions of the word religion. And as I mentioned last week, turns out it's more challenging than you might think. So what I'm going to do is invite you to write down your definition of religion just in a journal or on a piece of paper and keep it so you can compare it to how you feel at the end of the course. So just jot down what you think of when you think of religion, what you think it means. I want to tell you an anecdote that I think is true. I believe it's true. Knowing religious studies academics, I believe it to be true. So the story is that at a large university that will go nameless, there was an interview taking place for somebody who was applying for a job in religious studies. And so the committee asked the question, what is religion? So the candidate answered, and then the committee entered into a long, loud argument about it, and the interview had to be canceled because the religious argument became so heated. So this gives you some idea of how much emotion people can put into this question, and also that scholars don't always agree. And this is a very important thing to understand when you move into university, that each professor is professing their own view, their own standpoint. And so if you take a course with Dr. Colburn, or you take a course with Dr. Strigley or Renshaw or Langdon, you're going to get a different view of things because they come from a different perspective. Could be literary, could be from political science, etc. So what I'm teaching you, I'm trying to teach you a kind of broad understanding, but always know that this is one perspective, and also that there's nothing wrong with debate. There's nothing wrong with having different opinions of this. So what we usually say in religious studies is that you adopt a working definition, one that you find useful and that works for the material that you're looking at. So we have here one possible definition of religion that was put forward by Protestant theologian Paul Tillich in 1964. Whatever concerns a man ultimately becomes God for him. So this definition was very appealing to a lot of people, and you can see it's very, very broad. And so it takes under its umbrella many, many aspects. So in that way, it's very useful, and certainly people have used it. I think if you think about it even for a short period of time, you'll see some of the weaknesses in this definition. So the question that's often been raised is if somebody, collects hockey cards, is that a religion? Because they're obsessed with it, they treat them like they're sacred objects, it's the center of their life. And I think that for most of us, we would say no, that's not really religion. It has some of the characteristics of religion, but it's not religion in the way that we understand it. And so when I teach religion and popular culture, I talk about the idea of para-religion, so activities that mimic some of the aspects of religion. But I think there's an intuition that we have that this isn't quite a full enough definition. Okay, here we are trying again. So the HarperCollins Dictionary of Religion. So this is their definition. Religion is the organization of life around the depth dimensions of experience, varied in form, completeness, and clarity in accordance with the environing culture. So this is more, it's moving us more towards what I think a lot of us think of religion, that is something that organizes human life. This also includes the idea of a depth dimension, so the concept that there's something beyond what we can see, hear, taste, touch, that there's some other dimension of reality. This is generally shared by most religious traditions. And also that there's an interplay with culture. And so I've already touched on that in this course, that religion is also a very important informing aspect of human culture. I'm going to end the presentation with the definition that was created by Emile Durkheim in 1912. And I realize to you that seems like a long time ago, but many, many religious scholars still use this definition. I often use it. And Emile Durkheim, some of you may know if you're in sociology, was is considered to be one of the founders of the study of sociology. And so, unsurprisingly, he was very concerned about the social dimensions of human life. So he defines religion as a unified system of beliefs and practices relative to sacred things, that is to say, things set apart and forbidden, beliefs and practices which unite into one simple moral community called a church, all those who adhere to it. So let's just look at this, and I'll talk a little bit about why I find this a useful working definition a lot of the time. So the idea that religion is a unified system of beliefs and practices. It's not a hodgepodge, it's something that hangs together and gives meaning to human life. And that these beliefs and practices are not just simply, worshiping your car or something like that. They're relative to sacred things. So Durkheim brings in the idea of the sacred, which really, in many ways, is at the heart of religion. So that idea that there's an aspect of life that's set apart as most important and charged with a kind of power and even danger. So also Durkheim brings in here the idea of belief and practice. So it's not just a belief. Belief is important, but it's also what is practiced. And that this system of beliefs unites people. So part of the problem with the way a lot of people understand religion now is as very individualized. But certainly traditionally, historically, this was not the case. Religion was always a communal practice. And so the idea that these beliefs and practices unite a community around a kind of moral center. And he calls it a church here, but it could be obviously a synagogue, a temple, a mosque. So I like this definition because it includes so many different aspects of what we understand as being religion. Now that said, you are absolutely free to choose a different one and one that works best for your understanding of religion. And we'll be revisiting this idea, but I just wanted to give you some idea of this sort of scope of ideas around of religion.